On today's episode, we'll talk about turning down Schindler's List, John Alonzo's coffee cup, Flight of the Phoenix, how the Grinch stole Christmas, and of course, having your mom stall Spielberg so you can get your focus marks. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling. Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello and welcome back to the Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. I am Dave Comides, your host, and I'm here yet again from Panavision Woodland Hills and their theater because it sounds better than the 405 at rush hour. I have a really great guest today, Greg Smith, someone who I've actually known for a long time, but we haven't actually spent a lot of time together. Greg was a camera operator, steadicam operator for many, many years before retiring, and now we'll talk about what he does now. Some of the TV shows and movies that he did during his long career, Santa Clarita Diet, John Wick, Ted, Daddy Daycare, Legally Blonde, The X-Files, and actually as an assistant, he did the movie Clifford, which I'm very specifically going to ask you about because I have a connection to that as well. He also presently runs a steadicam school, steadicamlessons.com, I think, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
Yep, we'll talk about that. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Have you and I ever actually spent any time together?
I think we passed each other as we were walking on and off sets, and that's
right.
about it.
Well, but I came in on cellular.
Yes, I was. I had to leave right away,
yes.
And
you went to do.
I went to go do Flight of the Phoenix in Africa.
Yeah, and cellular. My remembrances of cellular was like, were you the B camera operator?
I was the B camera steadicam operator on it, and it was actually funny because. It was Gary Capo as the DP.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Michelle Pfeiffer was in it.
No, it was Kim Basinger.
Kim Basinger, yeah.
And the guy who's Captain America now.
Oh, yeah.
This is how bad we are.
No, whatever. That guy. Yeah.
Anyways,
someone look it up.
Anyways, and I got called to go to Africa to do a movie, and I actually turned it down because there was 2 weeks left to go with cellular. And Ian Fox was the A camera.
Okay.
And I was sitting there telling him I just turned down a movie to go to Africa, and he goes, "Why?" And I said, "Well, I got 2 weeks left to go on this one because it was, we were brought up with that. You don't leave your picture, And he went, no. And he went and talked to the director and Gary Capo.
Who the director was Ellis?
David Ellis,
David
who,
Ellis.
God rest his soul,
he passed away. But he was like a stuntman who became a director,
He was a
right?
stuntman that turned director.
Super nice guy. Yeah.
Great guy. Yeah. But they came back, they pulled me in their trailer and said, "You got to go."
They smack you around?
Yeah, like, hey, are you crazy? They're like, "You got to go."
Well, I'll tell you, I went in, I don't know, 2 weeks, I guess I must have gone in.
Yeah.
I think my memories of that movie were doing like 2 shots and sitting on the truck and watching like DVDs with the assistants. Like I didn't work that much in those 2 weeks. So you didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
But, well, that's great. So tell me about your career. How'd you get started and what was your career like?
I always call myself a studio brat because my mom was a makeup artist for years.
Okay.
And she's got 2 Academy Award nominations.
For what?
One for Hook and one for Schindler's List.
Oh my God! Oh, so she was like makeup artist with a big M.
Yeah, matter of fact, it's hilarious because
Wow.
I turned down Schindler's List as an assistant. And
did you know what it was?
Yeah, but I knew that it was a brand new 535 Airy, and I was going to go to Germany in the winter. And just went, it's not that, I don't
now,
want to go.
Maybe this is a stupid question, but do you regret that? Or are you okay with it?
No, I don't regret it at all. Not at all.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, on Hook, actually, I came in and I was a fairly new first. And I came in to just do some extra camera. And Clyde Bryant was the first assistant.
Oh my gosh, old! That's like an old school name
Yeah.
right there. Yeah.
And it was anamorphic. And I got there, and Clyde went, "I'm so sick of Spielberg. You do it." So
Wow.
I'm doing a camera all of a sudden, and Spielberg screaming for a close up, a dolly push in.
Yeah.
On Dustin Hoffman as Hook.
How old are you at this point?
I'm probably, I don't know. At that time, it was young. I was 35,
That's what I
maybe,
mean,
maybe 32.
But you're not someone who's been pulling focus for 30 years.
No, and it's anamorphic, and it's 100 millimeter,
that's why
and
I
it's a dolly push in.
And it's Steven Spielberg
and he's
Dustin
screaming,
Hoffman.
"Go!"
Oh.
And my mom runs out there and starts doing Dustin's makeup while I get all my marks.
No way! Oh, that she ran interference for you.
And because she knows that Spielberg's not going to kick her out.
Yeah.
So she finished it. I finally get it done. And I'm like, "Okay, I got it. Thanks, Mom." And she's like, "Okay, we're ready," and walks away.
I love that. That's such a great story.
Yeah,
Did Spielberg catch on? Or I mean,
no, if he did catch on, he wasn't
He
going to
couldn't say anything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic. So, I mean, did your mom just basically on every set she was on, like, throw your name and you kind of got in with those people?
More of when I was in college and in high school. As soon as I turned 16, she got me in the union as an extra.
16? In
No,
Screen
18.
Actors,
Sorry, 18.
and Screen Actors Guild?
There was Screen Extras Guild then.
Screen Extras Guild. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
And
right.
as soon as I turned 18, she's like, "I'm going to get you in." So my summer times, I would go be an extra in a PA and do all that stuff.
You remember any of the stuff you were extras on?
God, I know. I know. I remember this. I remember my first day as an extra.
Yeah.
I was 18. Showed up at the back lot of Warner Brothers, and they dressed me in a Western outfit. And I stood there in the rain with two old guys in the dark of the morning. And we stood there for about 4 hours, and they finally went, "Go home. We're not going to shoot today." And that was my very first day.
And did you enjoy that? Like you're 18.
But you know what? You're 18, and you made good money then.
Yeah, right.
And I got to meet all these camera guys because my mom would always say, "Go play with the camera guys."
Oh, really?
She would always say, "Go hang out."
Because
with
you
the
were
camera
interested in camera, or because she thought that was like these are the people to hang out.
I didn't necessarily have a huge. I never grew up being a camera guy.
Yeah. Okay.
I grew up being an athlete.
All right.
And my
What'd you
mom
play?
I played 4 sports in high school,
Oh, wow.
and then I was a scholarship athlete as a football player in college.
Wait, and you grew up in California, right?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Cal Lutheran.
Okay, which is where?
It's in Thousand Oaks. I got a ride to Oklahoma, and I hated it, so I left being a California boy. And then went to Cal Lutheran and played there. But so whenever I wasn't playing, she would take me to the sets and go hang out with the camera guys.
And did you grow up like visiting sets though? Like visiting your mom on set?
Yeah, all the time, all over the world.
That's wild.
You know, I went all over the world, and I did the same thing with my daughter. And my daughter's now a makeup artist.
No, oh wow.
Yeah.
So full circle.
Yeah.
That's great. Is your mom psyched about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's really neat.
That's her pride and joy right there.
What your daughter TV or movies or?
You know, interestingly enough, she tried to get in. My mom's got the Vanguard Award for makeup, and still couldn't get my daughter in.
Well, is that some?
It's
that
like the
an,
highest award
okay,
you can have.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know,
and
she still couldn't get her in the union.
Really?
Just that hard. So my daughter ended up, in the meantime, doing makeup for the Kardashians and the Jenners,
like personal makeup,
all
and
this,
whatever.
yeah.
But that's like a big business, right?
She works all the time.
So like basically they have a show, they have an award show, and she shows up ahead of time to make sure.
Yeah, like she's today getting on. I can't remember. People are going to laugh at me because I don't remember who's who. But the youngest,
you can say whatever
the
you
youngest
want,
billionaire.
Yeah.
She's getting on her jet and flying to Vegas to do her makeup for 4 hours and flying back home.
So she's like in the upper echelon.
Yeah,
That's
we never
cool.
got treated that way.
No. By the way, it's probably an easier gig than working on a movie.
Oh yeah, she works 4 hours. She's done.
That's pretty sweet.
I'm like, enjoy.
Doesn't get any frequent flyer miles, but whatever.
Enjoy. Yeah. So proud of her.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's gone full circle.
That's really cool.
So I just, like I said, my mom would always send me the camera guys, and then when she would go do movies out of town, I'd sleep on the floor of her hotel room, and I'd go to work, and that's when you could train for free too.
Yeah, you just like go hang out with the camera guys. They'll give you something to do.
Yeah. And the next thing you knew you were running around with lenses and cameras, and they just let you do it.
You remember some of the cameramen, the camera operators, or DPs you worked with?
Yeah, I remember. Chris. How about this one? Chris Schwiebert.
I remember that name.
Chris Schwiebert was a camera operator when I was a first assistant on Clifford.
On Clifford. Okay, so we're going to talk about Clifford.
And Chris Schwiebert was the first assistant for My Fair Lady.
Wow, that's cool.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's stuff that
But let me ask you, how did you find out about that? Because back then there was no IMDb.
I just would talk to him.
Just talking to people and then casually mention.
You're like, are you kidding me?
That is so cool. Is he still around?
I don't know. I know he had a daughter that got in the business as well.
Looking him up. So Clifford, because you brought it up. So you were.
What a bizarre film.
Were you the second for anybody who doesn't know?
I was the first assistant on Clifford.
Okay. For anybody who doesn't know, Clifford was Martin Short and was it Steve Martin? No,
it was
Charles Grodin.
Charles Grodin.
And Martin Short played a little boy. And
yes,
so he
an evil little boy.
Yeah, an evil little boy. But so
not like killing evil.
No, like
just vindictive evil.
Yeah. Yeah, like Dennis the Menace, but mean.
Basically.
Exactly. But basically, everything was forced perspective to make him look small, and like big chairs that he sat in and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we even did weird stuff like we would build everybody up on apple boxes.
That's such a bizarre shoot.
It was so weird,
But so my connection to that is I worked at Forward Productions, and we built the quarter scale roller coaster that they go through in the end. Like we literally built a roller coaster.
I rode on that roller coaster with a camera.
So the real one. So we went. So we built the miniature one,
right.
And I remember it was like I remember them going like. I was talking about it, in a miniature form, and someone was like, this would kill whoever went on in reality, like the G's, which is the SRAM or whatever. But and there was a whole thing where it like turned around and like a dinosaur tried to eat
he was big into dinosaurs.
He was big into T-Rexes or something. Yeah. I still have the jacket actually because it says on the back Clifford, and it was the first production jacket I ever had. It says Clifford, and it had a dinosaur patch like on it.
Well, that's when you would get jackets too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the first movie I got in the business on. Here's a good one for you. So I'm working for Hobby Jordan. Hobby Jordan is John Alonzo, first assistant for 33 movies.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Okay, and if your listeners don't know who John Alonzo is, look him up.
Yeah.
He did Scarface and Chinatown and amazing.
I worked with him twice. Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm working with Hobby Jordan on for free on a Sylvester Stallone movie called Over the Top, an arm wrestling movie.
Arm wrestling movie. I love it.
And John Alonzo calls Hobby and says, hey, I've got this movie I'm going to do, and they want to get this producer's kid in the business. And Alonzo was really about getting people in.
Yeah.
And Hobby said, who's his name? And he said, Craig Smith. And Hobby said, I got this kid working with me right now. So I go show up for the movie, and we're getting me in the union, and I'm doing it. And about 2 weeks in the movie, Hobby says to me, if John calls you Craig, don't tell him he's wrong. Don't correct him.
Okay.
I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, we got in the wrong guy. We thought we were getting in Craig Smith.
Oh, I was going to ask you, producer's kid. Okay, yeah.
And we got in
Greg Smith. So your entire career is a lie.
Absolutely.
There's some kid named Craig Smith out there flipping burgers, wondering.
And I end up doing, all kinds of movies with John Alonzo.
Did he call you Craig Smith?
He did, and then after that, I don't think he ever really. He may have known. He was a lot sharper. I mean, he was very sharp. But even in his old age, I did a lot of movies with him.
So the funny thing is, now that I know all this, our paths did cross on some level because we were doing the miniature roller coaster.
Right.
And then they came to me and they said, listen, we need you to pack up the Mitchell and the this and the that and the other because we're going to go out to Magic Mountain and we're going to shoot plates with First Unit. They're going to be shooting and we're going to go to lunch because it was all about that massive.
Right.
What's that roller coaster called?
Right.
Magic Mountain, the Tornado or something like that. But Colossus. Yeah. They're going to shoot, and then when they go to lunch, we're going to set up our cameras and shoot some plates because we'll know what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, but it's going to be an all-night thing. And I was like, well, can I go? And they're like, well, we need, you're working during the day. And I was like, first of all, I'm 20 years old.
Right.
I don't really need to sleep, but you're saying I could go out to a real set like this. I need to do this. So I literally worked all day. I went out and worked all night with them. And then I came back in the next morning and worked all day on
Brilliant.
set. But I was out on set. And you must have been there,
Had to
actually.
be there, yeah.
Because I very specifically remember, there's a couple of things I remember. One is it was a Panavision camera, and I remember on the back of the Panavision, on the right, like underneath where you set the...
it had Alonzo's, all his movies.
It had all Alonzo's movies.
Yep.
And I was looking at it, and I think Alonzo came up something to me and sort of was like very dismissive of me. Like, what the hell are you doing here? Or something like that. And I was like, and I like ran away. So the funny thing is, and years later, I worked with him on the live Failsafe. Live show Failsafe with like 30 camera operators. Mm-hmm. And he could not have been nicer and more wonderful.
Yeah, he loved to teach.
And after I talked to him for a while, I said, you and I have run into each other before. And I told him the story, and he kind of looked at me and he laughed, and he goes like, yeah, I'm sorry. And that was sort of
what he had he had on the motor cover of a Panavision camera.
It was like etched professionally.
It was a plate.
Yep.
And it had all of his films on it.
Films.
And every single time he finished a film, I was his first for a lot of years.
Oh, was it your job to add?
It was your job to go to Panavision and get that thing engraved and make sure it's back out there because it was a big deal. That camera did not show up.
So, and was it his camera? Like they kept that camera for him, or did he think it was his camera?
He thought it was his, but we just would change the motor,
so that he would. So the funny thing is, like, we must have been 4 feet from each other, and obviously I had no idea.
Well, there's, you talk about, he probably even knew the camera wasn't his, but there was,
that's so funny.
I'm on a movie with him, and he would always have his coffee cup everywhere he went, and he would put it in scenes on purpose and to see if the operator would catch it.
Wow.
And so at the end of the day, he would say the horses are at the gate, which meant that the assistant gets his coffee cup, takes it to the prop truck, gets his drink, whatever his booze is that he's drinking, because he didn't drink until the last shot, and you'd bring it back and give it to him. So they say the horses are at the gate. So the assistant looks at me and says, go to the truck. I'm the loader. Go to the truck and prop truck, get it done. And I go get it done, and I'm running. I've got a mag case in one hand. This is when you actually had, film and a mag case, and a mag case is what, 3 feet by 2 feet, probably weighed about, 15, 20 pounds?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, so I got one in one hand, and I've got his coffee cup in the other hand filled with booze, and I'm running up a circular staircase to get there, and I slip. And the coffee cup goes over the edge. Oh. And it's like a cartoon. It just goes. Yeah. And I look down and I think, that's it. My career is over.
And coffee cup meaning like it shattered, probably.
Shattered.
Yeah. It's like a.
It's done.
Yeah. Ceramic.
Ceramic, exactly. Yeah. So we get up there, and the assistant looks at me and says, "Where's this cup?" I go, "I broke it." And she says, "Oh, well, don't worry. We'll fix it." I go, "There's no fixing this, you know." So she's, all right, I'll figure it out. So she gives him his cup and something else. And that night, it was an Eddie Bauer cup. And that's when they had the Eddie Bauer stores. Mm-hmm. I go to the Eddie Bauer store, and there's like a presentation of like 30 of them.
Like a pyramid of them.
And I bought 5. So at the end of the movie, the kicker was he looks at me and takes a sip of his coffee. He goes, I know this isn't the same cup.
Oh. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
but he let you get away with it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a different time. People don't openly drink on set anymore. I'm sure people still drink on set, but things have changed a little bit.
Yeah, that was a time when they called martini.
Yeah. There's a reason they called it. And then everybody went to the truck and had rap beer.
Yeah, exactly.
That the producers would buy sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember, do you remember a cameraman named King Baggett?
I never met him, but I'm aware of him.
What a name, huh? How about that?
Yeah,
King Baggett.
No, that's like old school.
King Baggett I worked for. He was the camera operator in the hotel. What was the famous hotel that Bobby Kennedy got shot in? Ambassador.
Ambassador. Yep.
He was one of the cameramen in the Ambassador Hotel in the kitchen when Bobby Kennedy got shot.
You mean he was doing like a news
yes,
cameraman?
He was one of the guys.
Whoa.
And he ended up having a pretty good sized career, and I worked for him for a long time.
Yeah.
And he was, it was always when he called martini. You better have a what was it? He drank a margarita. And I watched his assistant plug in a blender full of margarita mix into the camera truck. Not the camera truck where the film was at.
Yeah.
The insert car.
Wow.
With the generator.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it was a very different time.
Also from the point of view of boy, this has gone a different direction, but that's all right.
Yeah,
The point of view of drinking used to be the way. Panavision used to give out like swag to the bigger DPs and the up and coming DPs and whatever. And I remember one of my friends got this really cool Panavision case that opened up, and it was like a whole espresso machine and whatever. And someone else, and I can't remember who, but it opened up and
Bill
it was
Fraker.
it was like what's that?
Bill Fraker.
It could have been. It was like a
Bill
bar.
Fraker had a bar.
Yeah, and there was a thing that pulled out with like shot glasses and
it was crazy. Bill Fraker had a bar. He had on the
But
camera
it was
truck.
like a calzone case.
You'd never know. It was a huge AKS case.
Exactly. That's
it was
exactly
massive,
right. And the front came down.
Exactly,
I don't know
and
where
it was all.
this.
And it was Bill Fraker's bar. They turned it into a bar.
But I wonder if there were other ones. They couldn't have only made one, right? Someone else must have had it. But times have changed. Can you imagine giving that out now?
Oh my God! Yeah, it's a different. It's a different world.
It's a different world. I shouldn't be saying all this in the Panavision Theater, but so how long did you assist for?
I assisted for. I was a loader for a year. I was a second for a year and a half. I was first for 5 years, and then I operator, which in that time was lightning fast.
No, that's really fast.
Now you just come in as an operator, but at that time that was lightning fast.
Yep, that's amazing.
And I got in the union as a fluke.
Uh-huh.
I moved up from second assistant to first assistant on a fluke.
Yeah.
I was doing. Two different things happened, but I'm with John Alonzo. We're doing it was a Richard Gere movie. I'll think of it in a minute. Anyways, and John Alonzo says I'm being the second, and he says go get the other camera out of the truck, and you're going to pull focus on this shot. And I'm standing there, and it's 100 millimeter, and it's Richard Gere and another actor, and they're in an argument. And I'm supposed to just hold this tight shot. Nobody's supposed to really move.
Yeah.
And that's when you put your hand on the knob. And for those of you who don't know, there's actually a knob on the camera that you can use.
Yeah, that you put your hand on to turn the lens.
You actually did that.
No, it's good. That's a good thing to point out.
But you put your hand, you can't even see the blood in my hand. I'm so freaked out because I'm squeezing the knob so hard.
Well, it's not only 100 millimeter, but it's Richard Gere.
Yeah.
And if it's a close-up, you're not that far away.
Yeah,
so
they end up getting to an argument, not an argument in the scene.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he gets swung like 5 feet towards my camera.
Oh.
And just by luck, I turned the knob the right way.
Wow.
I had a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, you had a 50-50. Well, maybe it's you could have not turned it at all.
Exactly.
So maybe there's three.
And it was in focus. And
Wow.
so Alonzo, it says cut, and he looks at Hobby and says he's doing the B camera from now on.
Wow.
So then I went to go do a movie called Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
With Charlie Sheen.
Uh-huh.
And Kim Guthrie was the first assistant. And Andy Denton-Foss was the DP.
I remember his name. Yeah.
And Kim Guthrie, for those of you who don't know, Kim Guthrie looks like Bad Santa, so Kim says,
image.
Yeah, Kim says, listen, we're going to go. We'll be in Spain, all this kind of stuff. And I said to him, well, I really want to start pulling focus. I want to be a first. And he said, if you come as a second, I'll let you be the B first. I'm like, okay. So we get there, we're there, and we end up in Spain, and Danny Denton-Foss gets fired. And John Alonzo comes in. And John Alonzo doesn't get along with Kim Guthrie.
Okay.
But John's not going to fire anybody.
But this is where you met, you're saying. You didn't know each other before this. So
I had done, no, John?
Yeah, John.
Oh, no, he got me in the union. This is years later.
You did know him but from before. Okay, gotcha. All right.
So John says to Kim Guthrie, hey, there's a second unit for 3 months.
Yeah.
You want to go be the operator? And Kim Guthrie says, no problem.
Yeah.
So he goes, and Alonzo says, you're the first assistant now. On Navy SEALs, all handheld nights, you know.
Oh, man.
I didn't unpack my bags for the first 5 weeks.
So how do you deal with that kind of fear?
You know, I was always somebody who I think it's controlling the adrenaline, you know?
I was going to ask you, like, does the sports thing come into that?
I think it comes in tremendously.
Yeah.
And I also was somebody as even, let's say, an operator, or when stuff got really hairy, I got quieter. Instead of
and
raising,
more focused, and
instead of raising and screaming and all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I always felt like there's somebody who's got to be the captain of the ship, and if you show fear, everybody's going to freak out.
Oh, there's no question.
And especially as you know, as a steadicam operator, because a lot of times the steadicam operator, you're the only operator at that moment, and
you're the dolly grip,
and you're the exactly, and if you show fear or show, you know, something that you can't do it.
Yep.
I say it a lot of times, listen, we can't sell crap, but if you go in there and say you're an operator, they'll believe you, you know.
At least for the beginning.
Until you blow it, right? But if you, like, you go there, you're hired as an operator, they think you're an operator. Well, be an operator.
There's no question. Well, how many times in your career has someone said, I want you to blah, 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 and you go, yeah, great. And you turn around and you're like, I have no idea how this is going to work out.
But you make it work because you pull from your experience.
Yep.
And, you know, I tell my students, listen, when you get that moment and you're freaked out, tell them you got to go to the bathroom and call me.
I love that. You know, on that note, it's very funny you said that, because I was doing, what was I doing? I was doing a show called Dark Matter, which is just out on Apple. And they had me come into Chicago to do like second unit, but then they put me on C camera on main unit for a couple days. I know all the guys there. And they wanted this shot that was a dolly shot. So like it's, I don't know if I can explain this but it's, you know, it's a library. So there are these long rows of books,
exactly.
Right? And they wanted a guy running down, and two walkways away, they wanted the dolly tracking with him, but he's running, right? And they sent me to set it up ahead of time with a second, you know, with a stand-in or whatever. So I'm like, I'm like, okay, well, we need the track here, and the guy's going to run here. And then I'm starting to think about it, and I'm like, how are we going to sync this up? Because you've only got like, you know, you've only got a second or two in the and they wanted him booking too.
Right.
And so I said, well, you know what we'll do is we're going to start down here, and we'll waste all of the beginning
till it times,
and eventually we'll get up to speed.
Right.
And I went and I did a thing, and I showed it to the director, and he goes, no, but I wanted to start from a stopped position, and I'm like, okay. And so whatever. So actually, I'm racking my brain, and I pulled out my phone. Do you know Don Devine?
Yeah.
So I called Don Devine. And I go, Don, is there anything I'm missing here?
Right.
Like, and he goes, what's? And I explained it all to him, and he goes, well, no, it's kind of unachievable, and maybe you'll get it, and maybe you won't, but there's nothing you can do to make it work. And I'm like, so there's not some linchpin. So it's funny you say that, because like I think, you know, there are times when people pull, and what it ended up being was I went to him and I said, look, here, I'm just going to tell you this because of the physics of this. We're just going to have to do this until it happens to give you the moment you like. And I said, and I don't feel comfortable with that because it may not, but I'm just being honest with you.
Right.
And the director was like, why can't we? I was like, well, it's just mass. And, you know, you don't want to be an ass, but you're like.
I think sometimes it's you know, I think some of the best things you can do is if you can't give them what they want, have an answer. But have an answer, but give them an alternative.
You give them an alternative.
Give them an alternative.
Yep.
You know, I always used to, you know, if they would line me up a composition or a shot that, to my core, it bothered me.
Or you know there's no way this is going to work the way they're saying it's going to work.
And I would say, you know, this is instead of being on a set, and be aware of this, guys and ladies, don't be the person that goes, oh, this is horrible, this won't work. You know, say, this is what you gave me, but do you like this better?
Yeah.
Make it their idea, you know. And I used to all the time. It's like you showed me this, and okay, I think we can get that done. But do you like this better? And you'd be surprised how many times they'll go, yeah, that's better.
You know, it's so funny that you say that, because I mean, I don't know how many. I've probably talked to 100 people so far, and we all do the same stupid stuff. And it literally is like Guy B and I sat here, and we barely know each other, but we've like crossed paths, and we both did ER and blah, blah, so we have a lot in common in a weird way. And it was like,
and by the way, your world of ER when you and Guy B was first and you were second, I believe.
I took over after Guy. Yeah,
that was some of the best stuff. That was rock solid. That was really good stuff.
That was a dream. I look back and I still don't quite understand how.
Yeah, that was really good stuff.
Thank you. But Guy, it was so funny because Guy was like, "Yeah, my thing is always like, hey, I know this just fell off the truck, or hey, just for shits and giggles, do we?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, mine is like, is there any value to?" And it's funny because like it's different catchphrases, but we all have them, and essentially, like you said, all of it is going, I'm really stupid and there's no way that I can understand this, but what do you think of this? So that then they go, I got the idea.
Make it their idea. Always make it their idea.
It's amazing. And what I've noticed is everybody has sort of a slightly different way of doing that, but we all do it because that's what you're doing all day is you're selling stuff, right?
Yeah, I always used to do you know Bobby LeBonge?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Bobby LeBonge is a great guy, and I'm doing a movie years ago, and we're sitting in a movie theater. You used to watch dailies.
Oh, God, I miss that.
It was great because, you know, for those of you who don't know, you would, the day before, whatever you shot, you would watch it in a movie theater. Wherever they were, you'd find a movie theater for you.
Yep.
And
or they'd make one if you were in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and you'd watch the film that you shot the day before. And a lot of times you could have the executives in there, you could have everybody in there, you could have nobody in there. And we're sitting in there, and we're doing some beautiful work, and nobody's saying anything. And finally, Bobby LeBonge goes, I'm going to fix this.
He's the operator, I'm assuming?
He's the operator.
And you were pulling focus for him?
Yeah. And he's like, I'm going to fix this. And he goes and he sits in the back of the theater. And finally he waits, this shot comes up. It's a really nice shot. And he goes, very nice. That was very nice. And everybody in the theater jumps in. Yes, that was quite good. Yes, I understand. And it ended up being a gag that I picked up from him.
Oh, that's great.
That, you know, like I said, we don't sell crap. But you'll be on a set one day, and you're going to do the same shot 50 times over again because somebody can't make a decision, and that first AD is going to look at you and go, can we please move on? And you're going to go, very nice, at the end of a take, and so they're going to go, oh, yeah, it must be, oh, yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, and then someone looks up there from their phone, and they're like, oh, we got,
great,
yeah, this is fantastic. It's so funny. There's so many times where, and I know that actually usually they're on to me because they're like, we know you, but also it's your way of going, come on, we've got this.
Right.
10 times to Sunday. I just was talking to Pete Cavacciuti, who is an English operator.
Yeah, he did. Didn't he do Cat in the Hat?
Did he do Cat in the Hat?
I think he did.
But one of the things that he was talking to me about was he was the second operator on Eyes Wide Shut. Liz Ziegler did the first 10 months. It was supposed to be like 2, and he did the last 4 or something. But
that's a wild movie.
Yeah, long story short, though, but his like first day or second day, he's lining up a steadicam shot, and Kubrick calls out and goes, Pete, you're off level. And he looks down and goes, I think I'm on level. And he's like, Pete, you're off level. And he's like, no, I think we're on level. And apparently it's a close-up of Tom Cruise, and apparently Tom's like, Pete, you're new here. We're going to do this like 60 times, so if you could just like move it till he's happy, that'd be great. And he's like, oh. And he does something, and he's like, all right, roll camera. And it's just like, you know, it's the same thing. It's like, we're gonna do this and do this and do this. That's great. But it's so funny. It's like all the same stuff. So do you remember, what'd you move up to operating on? Was that another fluke?
Oh, yeah. Of course it is. See? Trip into greatness.
By the way, the only thing I'll step in and say is, like, I understand why you say it's a fluke, but Alonzo puts you in there to full focus because he knew you and believed you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you pulled it off.
Yeah, so, if you couldn't, you know, I say that, you know, with their flukes and, you know, for you people, you young childs, you people, you. It's funny when you're 63 and you look at people and holy crap. Yeah. Anyways, you know, I worked for 2 years for free to get in the union. I had a college degree, you know, paid my dues. I worked every day for 2 years, and then I delivered subpoenas at night, and I dug ditches on the weekend.
That's awesome.
And I lived in at that time, I think I was paying $300 a month for a studio apartment.
Which, for the record, was probably a lot of money to you.
Yeah, and I did that for 2 years.
Yep.
And actually, Baird Steptoed.
Mm-hmm.
Baird Steptoed is arguably one of your greatest firsts of all time, and is still the first to this day.
Yeah,
is he still working?
Pulling Focus, president of the union, and pulling Focus. Yep.
And Baird I came and was working for free for Baird, and Baird would you get what's called hazard pay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing a shot, it's a dangerous shot in the union, you can say, okay, this is dangerous, and they give you $60 to risk your life.
It's worth mentioning, by the way, to anybody listening, the important thing about hazard pay, which
doubles your life insurance.
It doubles your. I think it gives you life insurance.
Something
you may
like
not
that,
have
yeah.
it, but like you have insurance, which really. There are a lot of people, and I don't disagree with this, who are like, no one should ever be doing anything that requires there to be life insurance.
Right,
but that said,
I think it became something to be able to say, hey, everybody pay attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is a little funky.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were doing a lot of car stuff, and I said to Baird one day, Baird, I can't come for a couple weeks. I gotta go make some money.
Yeah. Oh, you were working for free at this point?
Yeah. And he said, don't worry, you come.
So were you essentially like what we would call a camera PA now?
Yeah.
You weren't being paid, but or a trainee or intern.
Exactly.
Intern. Yeah.
And he said, no. He says, you come, and he would give me his hazard pay. But so getting back to, I went and did. I went and did a movie with Emilio Estevez called War at Home.
Okay.
And Peter Levy was the DP.
Oh, yeah.
Very good DP.
Yep.
And Peter and I had just started doing steadicam, but I wasn't telling anybody. I would, take a camera home. Thanks, Panavision. I'd take a camera back to the hotel when I was
That's great.
doing on location.
Yeah.
And I'd build my steadicam, and I'd run up and down the hallways.
I want to interrupt for 1 second because that is something that I think has changed, and you teach steadicam, so I'm interested to hear what you think about this. Back in the day, you'd buy a Steadicam, but like you would never tell anybody you had a Steadicam because you were like, I'm not a Steadicam operator. And now it seems like people are like, they're opening it up out of the box and they're like posting on the internet like I'm a Steadicam operator. And I think that's changed a little bit, right?
I have a line for that, and that is, don't make a bad name before you can make a good name.
That's good. That's
because
very good.
If you go do a job, we all listen. Folks, all of you, if you have spent money on a Steadicam and somebody wants you to go work for them for free, go do it. If you've spent money on a Steadicam and you've been doing it for a little while, but you're not very good, and somebody offers you $300, go do it.
And by the way, same goes as a regular conventional operator. Like
exactly.
Get the experience.
Get the experience. And as you get better, you charge more.
Yeah, and it's worth saying that, by the way, at least I used to feel this way. When you're doing the freebie and you screw up, you can sort of go, well, you're not paying me. I did the best I can.
Yeah,
what do you expect? Not that you want to.
Yeah,
but,
I'm standing here with a decent amount of money, in gear.
Yeah.
I'm here for free. Listen, you don't. If you wanted that guy,
you should have paid for it.
You should have paid for it.
Exactly.
And once again, not to insult anybody.
No.
When I say guy, I mean everybody.
Yes.
But it's different, and that's part. I'll get back to it later.
Yeah.
But that's part of why I got into teaching.
Sure.
Because I can't tell somebody that they have to start as a loader now. It's not reality.
It's not reality. Yeah.
Although you lose all of this experience.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I go, and Peter says to me, listen, and I'm the first assistant on it, and George Sanchez is my second, who is...
I remember that name.
I'm going to tell you, George Sanchez is one of the most naturally gifted first assistants I've ever seen. He still pulls focus off the knob.
I love that.
Okay?
Yeah.
Anyways, he did La La Land and all this stuff. Anyways, so we go there, and Peter says, listen, if you come do this low-budget show, it's Emilio Estevez, Martin Sheen, and Kathy Bates.
Okay.
If you come do this thing, I'll get you some Steadicam days. Great. So I show up, and we get there, and that's when I would mountain bike a lot. And Peter Levy, the DP, would mountain bike. So after the first week, we go mountain biking, and Peter Levy goes over the handlebars and cracks 3 ribs.
Oh, geez.
So now we get to work the next day, and he's on so much pain pills he can't see straight.
Oh, my God.
And I'm pulling focus, and I'm watching what he's doing, and I'm like, I say to him, Peter, are you happy with your work?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, what? And I walk him over to the monitor, and I watch playback. And I literally kick him off the dolly. I just go, I'm doing this.
Because
it's not happening.
Yeah.
And I look at George Sanchez and I go, you're the first, and don't screw up because I'm not going back down. And that's how I became an operator.
Okay,
and that's how George became first.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not
and
fun.
so I mean, what was the learning curve like for you?
You know, once again, because we came up through the ranks.
Yeah, and you were sitting next to the dolly. I mean, next to the camera
you were
on
there
dolly.
the whole time, and what you don't know is how much you know.
Yeah,
how much is already ingrained into you from watching this happen, and that's one thing I want to. I'm gonna make a little announcement here, public announcement, folks. Don't be the person who's pulling focus. I get it. You pull focus off a monitor, and it's not what we used to do, and I understand, and I can't say you're wrong at times. I have my own opinion. But don't take that thing, go in the other room, surround yourself with blacks, eat peanuts, and play your video games, because then you're not being a first assistant, you're just being a video game player. And what happens is an operator... let me get up on my higher Apple box here. What happens as an operator is I end up doing your job and my job.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, you say, well, just call me on the walkie-talkie. By that time, whatever needed to be happening is already over. Also, more importantly, you're not learning what's going on the set. You're not seeing the lighting change. You're not seeing the dolly move. You don't have any perspective of what's going on, and that actor or actress, when you need help from them and you just say, hey, listen, can you stand up a little slower, or can you do this, or can you not lean as far, or something like that, they don't know you. They have no relationship with you. You're just somebody in the other room. At least take your equipment and be in the room with the rest of the crew and be that person. Okay, I'm off my Apple box now.
No, but I think it's important. I mean, it's one of those weird things, because I don't disagree with anything you said. And at the same time, at least just being on the monitor, their job is so much different than, I mean, it's like focus is on or off. There's no gray area anymore. And it's become, for lack of a better word, I think it's become a video game more than it's become focus pulling. It's still focus pulling, and it's harder than ever. I mean, I was just talking to Liam Sinnott, who's one of the best focus pullers I know, and he just finished, I can't think of the name of the show, but anyway, he was talking about, they're open beyond a 1 most of the time. There's just there's no room for error. It's in or out. It's in or out. So I get it, and the interesting thing that I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this, is second assistants are the people who are tending to move into operating more than first assistants. And I think there's 2 reasons. One is a lot of first assistants are like, I got a lot of rental going. I don't want to mess with that. And I got that.
And they're working. If you're a good first, you will work all the time.
You'll work all the time. But the other thing is the second assistant has more to do with me as an operator now than the first assistant does sometimes, from a physical point of view of because they're dropping marks and they're, and this and that and the other. And
here's my second assistant rant. We'll see how many rants you guys get out of me.
I'm going to cut these all in order. Yeah. It's going to be one long rant. Yeah.
As a second assistant, when you get the slate, don't look in the monitor and stick the slate out and find the frame. And this is why you don't do that. We learn distance and framing and composition as we came up through the ranks. And what the second assistant had to do is they would look at the lens and they'd say, oh, it's a 50 millimeter. That means you would stand 5 feet away and you would put that frame, that slate out there.
Yep.
That means that slate is full frame. Okay? You learn where the camera's going, you learn distance, you learn framing. Okay? If you don't do that little step, then that's knowledge you don't have. I can stand in front of Dave right now and look at him and know how far away I need to be full frame. Right now, I guess you and I are probably about 7 feet away. So I'd need about a 70 millimeter lens to make him full close up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But this is just stuff that, you know, please, I'm telling you, people.
Yeah, but you will learn it. You will learn it by osmosis. And the other part of it is, like, if I'm framing something up and the second AC comes in and nails it in the center of the frame every time, as opposed to me having to take that little up, down, left, right. It actually does make a difference, because it just makes the day that much easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
It means that, and it lets me know, like, oh, this is someone who's paying attention, has learned, et cetera, et cetera.
You used to have operators that would not move their frame.
No.
They did it left, right.
Or, by the way, you get something thrown at you. Like, I mean, we both know Norman Parker very well.
Oh, yeah.
And I was talking to Norman the other day. He's been out of the business, I don't know, 20 years. And I was like, you can't throw things at people anymore. It's like, really? You can't? What do you do? But that was the thing. You just get something chucked at you and you figure it out.
But that osmosis is it's missing now.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I really started teaching, because that osmosis
filled the gap.
I find myself very lucky. I find that I had a great career.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'd rather sitting here telling stories of what you got to do on sets.
Yeah.
And the places you've been. I've been launched off an aircraft carrier. I've been in a submarine. I've done cocaine with Charlie Sheen. But I mean, you do all this wild crap that's an amazing career.
No question.
And you get to work with people that you make these really solid bonds.
So what, do you remember the biggest hurdle of jumping to operating? Like, what was the thing that surprised you that was harder than you thought it would be?
Well, it was interesting because Peter Levy is the one who actually, whether he intended to or not, moved me up. And I asked him after that, how do I get better? Where do I get to the next level?
Yeah.
And he said, go operate 1 million feet of film. And it's a very interesting statement, because the reality is you really only get there by operating. And that's going back to what you were saying about volunteering, getting your hands on equipment, and just operating a camera.
Yeah.
There's nothing that supplements it. And I think that there's nothing that supplemented my ability than time and experience. Nothing.
Yeah.
As you know, you're a better operator 10 years later. You're a better operator 20 years later.
Sure.
You're a better operator
Hopefully.
30 years later. But you just are. You see it coming.
Yeah.
You understand the windows of opportunity to operate in. You've watched people move for so long, you know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the progression is, like, the first thing is, I just don't want to cut off their heads.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, now I want to like really nail the headroom.
Yeah.
And then it's okay, now I only want to move when I have to move, and I don't want to move too early.
I'm not going to over-operate.
And then at a certain point, it just becomes all of that you don't even think ever about. Yeah. And now it's like, now I want to just tell the story, and it's like this constant finessing.
My example of that is they did a remake of, Oliver Stone did a remake of Any Given Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually a pretty good film.
Yeah.
But the really interesting part about that film is in the very beginning, when Dennis Quaid gets hurt, who's a quarterback, and they bring in Jamie Foxx, and they ramp up the speed. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, Jamie Foxx is throwing the ball everywhere. He's throwing interceptions. He's doing all this horrible stuff. And as time goes on, and as he gets better and better, time slows down. Yeah. And I think that happens to all of us. Mm-hmm. When you become a first assistant, a second, operator, at first time, I could set up a frame and I could walk a pink elephant through the background. You'd have never seen it. Because you're so focused on that close-up or whatever it's supposed to be.
Headroom
or the headroom or this kind of stuff.
You miss everything else.
Exactly. And then time slows down. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, you have time to scan the frame.
Yeah.
And, he's going to make his move. And I know he's going to do this. Also, I think a big advantage you have as you get more experience and you get more time into it is you don't care if you screw up.
That's the thing. Well, that's where it gets.
I mean, I don't mean it. You don't care.
No,
but if I screw up, I'll just do it again.
You know you're going to survive. If
I don't operate in fear.
Your career.
Yeah, I don't operate in fear.
Yeah.
When you're first on there, you're scared to death to move the camera.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And then after a while, you go, well, listen, I'm going to go for it. If I miss it, I miss it.
But I think what that becomes is you. I think when you start to become an interesting operator or assistant or anything, is when you recognize that failure is part of the game and it's going to happen, and you don't fear it anymore. You don't want it, but you don't fear it, and therefore you will ride closer and closer to the edge of failure, which is where the interesting stuff happens.
Where the brilliance is.
Yeah. So like when someone's standing up, you will wait as long as even maybe too long sometimes because you don't want ever. And sometimes you'll get it, and sometimes you won't. But when you do, you'll nail it.
Yeah, it's the same thing of having the ability to two people in an argument. One guy reaches for a gun, you go for the gun.
Yeah.
As opposed to the rookie's not going to leave that frame.
I'm not going to leave that frame. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
But the experienced operator, you can take 5 operators if they're all experienced, and you put them in a room and have an argument, and that guy goes for the gun. They're all going to go for the gun.
Yep.
And we've all done that.
They're going to tag.
Where they're like, okay, hold on, you tag it, I'll stand the close up because we're all going to go for that moment.
We don't need 5 shots of the gun. No, it's exactly right. But again, what that comes down to is because you I think you move on from being a technician to what you really want to do, which is you become a storyteller.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And because the gun is the story at that moment, and then you want to, or and it's that thing of like,
tell me a story.
Yeah, and well, you'll be on someone and you'll give them the close up and this and that and the other, and then you go over and you go, look, I got the close up like 3 or 4 times. You good with that? Because the reality is, halfway through the speech, I feel like I should pan over and find this woman listening in the background because that's really where it is. And then they're like, oh, that's so much better. And then you've given them both, but now you're thinking like
That's what I speak to about if you're a B operator and they line you up, find your B shot. First of all, as a B operator, go stand where you think your shot should be.
Great advice. Yeah.
Stand there and go and say, listen, I can give you this. Also, as a B operator, don't get in there before you're A operator. That's how you piss an A operator off.
Yep.
Also, as a B operator, you don't need the whole shot. You just need that pearl moment. A couple great close-ups, a couple of whatever it is. You need that hero moment, and that's why B camera gets all the hero moments because they don't need the whole thing.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying, if that A camera is doing the shot over and over again, and you're B camera and you're just doing it over and over again, and you've got yours, walk over quietly to that DP or that director and go, hey, listen, I've got this. Would you like me to get this? Have an answer.
Yeah.
That person listening over there, like you were talking, that's a great moment. I can get that for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, make sure you go through your DP first.
I was going to say, go through the DP first and make sure, hey, are we lit over here? Can
exactly.
I pitch this?
Always, and do it quietly.
And the other thing I'll say is usually with the director, what I'll do is I'll go up and go, hey, do you think I got this okay for you? Because then it's like, again, it's their thing, not mine.
Now I can get you something else.
Yeah, exactly, because this is over there. Because the reality is it's just about, the A camera operator's thinking about 12 different things in the bigger picture. You've just been thinking about this and looking at all this because you've had the luxury of going, all I'm doing is holding a close-up so I can look at all this other stuff.
That's the nice thing about B cameras. The A camera's got to clean your frame.
So
exactly what we're saying is when you're the A camera, you're normally the wider camera, which means you've got to make sure your frame doesn't have anything in it, whether it's whatever, a C-stand, a coffee cup, whatever. If you're the B guy, you're normally tighter than the A guy, so you really don't have to worry about that. So he's got to clean up the mess all day long, and you come in there and get to be the hero. And
if there is something, you're like the A camera operator, miss something, you throw them under the bus. No, you never do that. But but it's true, and that's all great. I love the stand where you think the camera should be, and because the other thing is, there's that stand where you think the camera should be, and then you just sort of hopefully grab the DP's eyes and you put your fingers on it. You're like, oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And then they know what you're, and that's fine. And you're like, and then you look at the camera operator and go, you okay? Blah, blah, blah.
And when they're doing that rehearsal, whether you're the A or the B person, stand next to the director and the DP because you're looking at it from their point of view. Don't stand 180 degrees away. You know, now you're seeing it for now. All of a sudden, you get to, if you're the A guy, you're already thinking about cleaning up your frame.
Yep.
What's got to go?
Yeah.
You know.
And then the B camera operator, would you say they should just be basically thinking about the? I mean, the A camera operator is thinking about the edit too, but the B camera operator is almost more so.
Yeah, just
right?
what piece do you need?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, think like an editor.
Yeah, if you can think like an editor, and of course that goes back to knowing the story and et cetera. I mean, all that it all sort of like backwards engineering.
And as a B operator, know when to back off and give your A operator a break as far as pushing his frame.
Yeah.
You know, if you got two cameras side by side and you're really hurting this guy's frame, back up and go longer lens.
Yep. And then that situation, do you go to the DP and go, hey, I'm kind of boning him. Is it okay if I?
Yeah. I mean, you and I have spent a lot of years sitting on a Panavision 11-1, which is a phenomenal lens.
Yeah.
But here's my little story about it's a great lens.
What is it? 24 to 275.
24 to 275. Yep. Is it a 2.8?
It's a 2.8, I think.
And a 4 foot minimum.
It's a beautiful lens. Yeah.
4 foot minimum.
Yeah.
So when it first came out, I'm prepping a movie as I'm going to be the first guy to take it out in a movie.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was called, I was doing Blown Away with Jeff Bridges and Tommy Lee Jones.
Okay.
And they bring this lens out to the prep, and I look at I'm so angry. I literally walk up to the big boys upstairs and go, you just put a lens out. You're gonna kill first assistants. Oh. This thing goes 275 at 4 feet at a 2.8. Yeah. That's single plane focus. Yeah. You're gonna kill us. No. They'll never use it that way. Right. So we go do this movie in Boston. First day I'm on a 275 at 4 feet at 2.8 with Jeff Bridges throwing up.
Fantastic. So he's moving all over the place.
And my second looks at me, Mark Figueroa, and goes, that didn't take long, did it?
I love Mark Figueroa.
But going back to it, that lens is such a beautiful lens that you can back up and just go on a little bit longer lens and get out of the A guy's way.
Well, I'm not on the 275, unfortunately, but if you're not on the 275, No, exactly. It's exactly right. So how long did it take until you were confident as an A camera conventional operator and steadicam operator even before you could
to
walk
where I
on
really
a set
felt
and be like, I can handle anything they give me?
I would say a minimum 5 years, but probably seriously 10.
And that's working. I mean, you're working job to job.
Yeah,
to job.
and I mean that's being real honest. I'd say
yeah.
At 10 years in, you know, they walk up to you and say, "We're going to do a shot that's never been done before," and you think to yourself, "Okay, you've never done before." I've done it, maybe not the exact same
but
shot,
I've done it in pieces.
But that's 10. I really believe that's a good 10 years in.
Wow. Yeah.
You know,
were you?
And I think 5 years, you're pretty solid.
Yeah.
You're pretty solid.
You're solid, but you think there's probably something out there that still scares me.
Yeah, and you get so much better at solving problems.
Yes. But that's what most of it's about, right?
Yes.
I mean, I always talk about the fact that, like, people have asked me, like, you know, when you get a big shot, what's the process?
Right.
And I always go, my first process is I call them what are my assassins? Like, what are the things that are going to physically kill me,
right,
or are going to destroy the shot? So it's glass, mirrors, you know,
right,
blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it's like you get rid of all of those. So that's all problem solving. And then you go, okay, now I can actually do the shot, and then you just start finessing it and
yeah, and I think especially with Steadicam for me, being an athlete all my life was really helpful. You know, because it really teaches you how to focus and how to deal with the pressure at that moment, because there's only one shot.
I think also if you well, so you were doing Steadicam before you did conventional?
Yes.
I think if you start out with Steadicam, you also have, like we were talking about, you know, sort of the passive knowledge of just movement.
Yeah.
And understanding how a camera moves through space.
Yeah, I was right on that. I was right on that curve. You had your original guys come out. You know, big shout out to Stephen St. John if you hear this. Stephen St. John was wonderful to me.
Yep.
And Stephen St. John, I was doing Species, as a first. I was the B first on it, I think.
Michael Crichton book? That
Yeah.
species? Yeah.
And Stephen St. John was the operator on it. And he would just strap his steadicam on me and go practice at lunch, kid.
Good.
And,
I love that.
And he had, at the time, the arm to have was a 3A arm. It's a great arm.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's running around spending all this money. And you can get a 3A arm for $3,500.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Luna, who used to make them,
Yeah.
still makes them.
Yeah. But
Will
he re
for like $1,500.
Yeah.
So like for like $5K.
Yeah, they're phenomenal.
They're a great arm.
Yeah, yeah.
I did the Grinch Stole Christmas on that arm.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, that was the only arm. And if you didn't have that arm, you couldn't operate.
No.
And CP had stopped making them.
Mm-hmm.
And St. John had 2. And I'm talking, this is 1995. So I'm trying to buy one from Steven, and he won't sell. And I'm like, Steven, come on, sell it to me. He won't sell. Once again, 1995.
Well, but that was also, it's worth pointing out that like an operator wanted 2 arms back then. Because if an arm went down, it's not like today where you could get on the internet and call 12
you were
people
screwed.
and they'd bring you an arm.
You were done.
Yeah.
So I one day showed up at his house, and I started peeling out $100 bills. And it's $16,000.
Wow.
In 1995, he said yes. That's a ridiculous amount of money.
That is.
And everybody looked at me and said, "You are out of your mind." I said, "Yeah, but you know who's working tomorrow? I am."
Exactly. I'm going to start making that money back. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm working tomorrow.
Yeah. But that was also like, now it's funny because I think people take it for granted, but there are like 15 different companies that make arms and steadicams and whatever. There just wasn't stuff available.
I flew George Billinger to Hawaii. I was doing Mighty Joe Young.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in Hawaii for months, and we were going to do a scene with Bill Paxton, God rest his soul. What a great guy.
Great guy.
And he's an actor for you young guys. Anyways.
He was in was he in Big Love?
He was a big love. He was the one in Aliens.
Well, I know he was in Aliens, but I worked with him on Big Love, and he was great. Yeah, exactly.
But
We're in charge.
Yeah, he did a lot of great stuff.
Oh, it's fantastic.
But we had to do a scene at this waterfall in Kauai, and it had to be on Steadicam. And the day before, my arm snapped.
Oh, jeez.
And I called George Billinger up, bought him a ticket to Hawaii. He got on a plane, got off it, handed me his arm.
Yep.
And as soon as and I gave him my other one.
Yep.
He took it and got it fixed, and then we switched it out. And that's
what you did back then. Though,
and that's
you know what? It reminds me of Jimmy Mura was on Terminator, and his arm broke, and Guy B came down at 2 a.m. and brought him an arm. And Guy was telling me he's sitting there talking to Cameron, like on set of Terminator 2, I guess.
And that's what you do, and that's what I've done that for buddies. We've all done it for each other, and people will say to me, people ask me, and they'll say, "Well, so and so wants to borrow this, and how much should I rent it to him for?" And what I say is, have a coalition of a group of guys that you guys don't charge each other. You guys take care of each other.
Yeah.
So when Jody Miller is in downtown LA and I forget, something happened with his rig went down, and he calls me at 2 a.m.
Boom.
I got you.
Yep.
I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to drive there. I'm going to give him my rig.
Well, I think the thing that I used to say was like we were all like trying to get the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course we all want the job, but once one of us got the job, everybody needed to make sure that person succeeded.
Yeah.
So whatever they needed. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, Doc Carmen, I remember once brought, I think he gave me, he had some long post low mode thing or whatever, and I needed it for a thing, and he gave it to me. And I remember coming back and trying to give him some money for it. And he was like, "Nah, I was sitting in the garage anyway." It's like, did the shot work out? And I'm like, "Yeah, it was great."
And there's no reason why that you guys, once again, guys means both of you, sexist.
People.
You people. But people sound so.
It sounds weird,
doesn't it to me?
I know. I actually.
You folks.
I know. I was
Let's go
actually.
with folks.
Someone told me, and I don't know how they determine this, that guys now means everyone. It's become, it's actually.
That's what I always went there, but
that it's not, it's not gender specific anymore. But I don't know if that's true. But.
People can still do this. You should still have these groups, and we all used to keep it. You keep your cameraman in house. If I couldn't do a job, and I needed somebody, I could call Dave, I could call Jody, and those guys weren't there to take my cameraman. They're there to cover me, and that's what we did, that kind of thing. Yeah. And you keep that cameraman in house, and you work together, and that's how you guys. It's not. I get this. I think the one thing that the statement that bothers me a lot is when people say, "Oh, there's too many people in the business, and there's too many people, and there's not enough work," and that may be true. But I firmly believe that the cream rises to the top.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not in every case, unfortunately, but overall, I think you're right. Yeah, there's sometimes exceptions.
There's exceptions, but reality is, if you want it, listen, do you remember the time, Dave? I remember being on a set as a steadicam operator. The boom guy told me he had a steadicam. The generator guy had a steadicam. Yep. Everybody had a steadicam. This isn't new.
I was on a set once where the craft service guy came up to me and he's like, "Oh, you got a TB6 monitor there, a green screen?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, I just got the new small HD whatever." And I'm like, "Huh?" And he goes, "Well, I got a steadicam." And I'm like, "Oh." Okay.
And I understand the angst and the fear but flat out you just got to want it more than somebody else.
That's exactly right. And to put in the time and do the work
and a little luck. A little luck never hurts. Yeah. But you got to be able to say, listen, if you got a day off and you ain't working. And you're not picking up your rig or on your wheels or on a fluid head or going somewhere and learning something. Yep. Someone else is.
Someone else is. Yeah. I want to ask you some specific shows. Flight of the Phoenix, because we brought it up. Working in where were you? You were in North
Namibia.
Africa? Namibia. So you're in the desert.
For 5 months.
Oh God. What's it like working on the desert? Like how do you deal with that? Because I mean, isn't it just like especially Steadicam, but just cameras in general.
Yeah,
like
and then they would take Ritters.
Huge fans. Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Well, some people don't know. Yeah.
They would take the Ritters, and they would be shoveling sand into them to make sandstorms that you're running through.
Sounds horrible.
Oh, a good tip. And this is a great tip for I'm sure you know this one for beach, anything like that. Is we used to put chain link down.
Chain link fence, right? Yeah.
And bury it, and it shores it up. Now they've actually, you go to Home Depot and they've got that plastic kind of fence stuff.
Oh, like something that's it's not specific for that, but you're saying it's easier to use.
But it's light, and it's easy, and you put that down. But it sort
of gives you something to like,
right?
I don't know, step on.
And I've even if I've got a small move, I'll have them put a 4x8 sheet of plywood down and I'll put sand on that.
And then just cover it up, yeah.
But Fly the Phoenix, we got there, because literally you stepped out of the van into sand, and you step back into the van at the end of the day.
How do you deal with the gear, though? I mean, is it just constantly cleaning the gear?
Yeah, you're cleaning every day.
Oh, God.
And that's where a pro arm is brilliant.
The Pro Steadicam arm,
GPI Pro arm,
because
it's a sealed arm.
Yep.
And I could take that arm and at the end of the day just literally take the cannons out, drop it in water.
Yep.
Same thing of when
Put
I
it
did
in the dishwasher.
I did Poseidon.
Okay.
I just let it get soaked. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
But Flight of the Phoenix, they had these huge black rubber, like 30-foot yard rubber walkways.
Oh, okay.
So as a Steadicam guy, I'm sure you would have been doing the same thing. As soon as you get there, you look and you go, "Oh, those are mine. Those are mine." And I would bury those.
Sure.
Sometimes you couldn't,
No. But because otherwise, your cabs are going to be dead within no time.
That's one of the big pearls I can tell you is
Yep.
get some underneath your feet if you can.
Yeah. Ted, the original Ted.
God, I
Did you just laugh your ass off?
I mean, I went in I originally just went in to just do some Steadicam and ended up staying for a while.
Yeah.
And it's the weirdest thing is to hear the Family Guy voices.
That's what I was wondering. 'Cause what's his name?
Seth
MacFarlane.
MacFarlane, because he's the director, and he
Yeah.
does all the Family Guy voices.
Yeah.
And so when
Do
he's
they just come out?
yeah, they're hilarious, and he's doing the voice of Ted too.
Sure.
You know, and
Yeah.
so he's back there doing the voices, and that's the weirdest thing is just like Peter Griffin's back there. What's
That's
going
so
on?
funny.
here?
Yeah, you know Charles Pappert?
Oh yeah.
So Charles Pappert did Office Space, and he said like sometimes you'd be sitting there and like Beavis and Butthead would be behind the monitor because it would just come out.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, and actually, I think I either turned down Ted 2 or one of those. I couldn't do it for some reason. You know, I was laughing one day. I was doing Stuart Little 2.
Oh yeah, with Stephen Poster and Norman.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm doing Stuart Little 2. And I'm married, and I just look at my wife. I go, I can't believe I'm doing Stuart Little 2. And she looks at me. She goes, yeah, you're doing the biggest movie in Hollywood, you know.
Yeah.
But it was like Stuart Little 2.
Yeah.
But it's the Stephen Poster, who, as you know, was the president of our union for years, and I did a lot of movies with him. We're doing Daddy Daycare.
I was going to ask you about Daddy Daycare.
Which is another one of those movies. You know, sometimes, folks, you think you're doing the greatest movie in the world, and it's a piece of crap. Mm-hmm. You know, you'll be doing that. You've done it too. I've been on a $150 million film, and it's horrible.
Or, by the way, the other way around. Where
Exactly.
You're like, this is going to be terrible, and it turns into something.
So we're doing Daddy Daycare, and we're Norman and Steven, and we're looking. I go, what up? I mean, I'm like, this is just
going to be horrible.
Horrible, right? Ends up making more money than Eddie
was a
Murphy's
funny movie.
5 movies in combined.
Yeah,
No, it was a funny
exactly.
movie. It was actually really funny.
Now,
but we're doing, and Mike Scott is the A camera.
Mike Scott, sure.
I'm
yeah.
doing B camera.
Okay, yeah.
And Mike Scott gets sick. So they bring in Dan Gold, another great operator.
Amazing art.
Amazing.
Yeah, legendary.
So they bring in Dan, and so we switch cameras. Now I'm on A and Dan's on B.
Yeah.
And there's a driveway, and it's got leaves in it. And Steven picks up a broom, the DP, and starts, brooming it. Just he wants to get going, right? And Dan rolls on it, meaning he turns the camera on and film goes by. Anyways, so he rolls on it, and he sends it to the lab, Well, Steven goes to the lab the next morning to watch his dailies, or he doesn't go. I'm sorry. He calls the lab
for the report.
He says, "What's the report?"
When you used to do that.
Do I have an image?
Yeah.
He goes to get the report, and the guy says, "Yeah, we've even got a shot of you sweeping." But what Steven hears is we even have a shot of you sleeping. And Steven goes, "What camera?" And he goes, "B camera."
Geez.
Well, Steven now thinks that it's me because
you're the B.
I'm the B guy.
Oh, wow, this is just like a cacophony of errors. Okay.
I know none of this till I get to work.
Oh, geez.
I walk on the camera truck, and Norm Parker looks at me and goes, "What did you do?" I go, "What are you talking about?"
And for the record, Norm could say that, and it could be nothing.
He could be lying to you 100%.
Yeah,
he's the ultimate BSer.
He is.
But he goes, "What did you do?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "You shot Steven sleeping and sent it to the lab." And I went, "No, I'm thinking, no, I did sweeping. He was sweeping." And so.
Oh my God!
That's the only thing. He said Steven came in the truck. He was so mad he was trying to kick Norman. He was like,
"Oh my gosh!
I'll kill him!
That's
I'll kill him!"
Unreal! Wow, that's great. So Norman told me that Eddie Murphy is an interesting guy to work with.
He's a nice guy, and Norm could get him talking.
He said that he was one of the few people because he would talk about basketball with him,
or boxing. I think he would talk boxing, but he would talk. And Eddie was. I had no problems with Eddie, but he's definitely germophobic.
With these, and Norm was telling me that like they take his trailer with him everywhere because he wouldn't use the bathroom or something. So and sometimes he would just disappear for hours.
Here's and this is one of the things. This is nice if you got enough money to do this.
Yeah.
When he goes into a hotel room, they change the carpets. So
That's fantastic.
On that movie,
I love this business.
on that movie, I happened to be going out with the wardrobe woman.
Okay. Who's working very closely with them.
Yes,
obviously.
Liz Frank, who, by the way, is amazing, one of the best ever. And we happen to be going out, and she looks at me one day and she goes, because I'm watching Eddie Murphy change his socks all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what's going on with this?
You mean he's doing it on set?
Yeah, and I'm like, what's going on with the socks?
Yeah.
And she says, he will not put on a used pair of socks, even if they're washed.
So it's got to be new.
It's got to be brand new. His sock budget on Daddy Daycare was $500 a week.
His sock budget, I love it. It's funny, but it's actually sort of sad because it's got to be a very tough way to live. At least he's got the money to live that.
He was, like I said, I think Eddie's a very nice guy.
But the thing that I actually wanted to ask you about was, I think it was on that movie. Norm told me he has a double who you can almost shoot in a profile and you can't tell the difference, and he stands in for a tremendous amount of stuff for him. Is that?
I don't remember that.
Maybe that's after that.
Yeah, that could have been on another one, but like that one I think I would have remembered.
Okay, we're cutting that. So moving forward, so you got out of the business at some point.
About 8 years ago, I just I had a lot of injuries.
From the business, or
a little bit of both. From being a football player, my neck's fused from that.
Okay.
My back is fused from camera.
Jeez.
But I tell people this, but I tell them, you got to understand something. When you and I were flying cameras, they were a hell of a lot heavier.
And also, the stuff wasn't ergonomic. I mean, no. I always joke about, like, you'd put it on and you're like, but it hurts. And they're like, yeah, it hurts. It hurts all the time. Just deal with it.
Yeah. And then I got to be the big 3D guy.
Oh, geez. See, I never did 3D, and I stayed away from it like
Billy,
the plague.
What was it called? First, it was Billy Lynn's longtime. Well, it was John Toll and Ang Lee.
Oh God!
Which was amazing to be on that.
Who's going to turn that down?
Right, jeez. But it was two F-65s.
Oh my God!
The rig weighed,
one looking down and one looking out.
The rig weighed 135 pounds.
How can they even ask someone to fly that? It's incredible.
And it's funny because John Toll came to me and went, who is Academy Award-winning DP, and if anybody knows his shit, he does.
Yep.
And he came to me and he said, Greg, he goes, this thing's out of control. He goes, I literally have one shot I need you to do in this movie because I can't do it any other way.
Yeah.
And I did a little steadicam besides it, but I had one big one where I had to walk through this house and end up and do this big shot with it. And he's like, as long as you can get me that shot. And it was great because he allowed me, because it was such a complicated shot and I had to get it right, and I could only do it a couple times.
Yeah.
So I did a couple things. I went to production and I went to art design, and I got the schematics of the house.
Okay.
And because we had a big prep area, and then we worked in some of the big stadiums for a while, so I had a lot of room. And I would tape out the house.
Oh my God! Like make a real, actual map of it.
Right? Wow. And because I had to fit through doorways too.
Sure. It's massive.
I could barely fit through the doorway, and I would walk the scene.
It's amazing
to physically get in shape to be able to do it.
Sure, but because I think it's worth mentioning, you're saying the rig weighed 135 pounds or the camera? The whole rig.
The whole rig.
So the whole rig weighed 135 pounds. On an average movie, what do we think in the movie? Things we fly weigh like 60.
Yeah, now it's like closer to 45.
Yeah,
but we used to fly stuff at 50, 60.
But back then, this is literally more than twice the weight.
Yeah, it was like moving a refrigerator.
So what'd you do with the arm? How'd you get the arm to hold that weight?
Because the GPI arm, goes to 77,
something like that, but not.
So what I did is I had them, and it was George at the time, He wouldn't have done this for too many people.
Yeah.
But he sent me 4 gray springs.
Oh, okay. So you changed out for the bigger spring so it could hold that weight.
But then it could only hold 90. But he made production sign that with this arm snaps,
it's not
on me.
Oh my god!
Because it's
this is so insane.
I'm still lifting 40 pounds.
Like literally, your personal arms are doing the rest of the work.
Yeah, and then the loom is about the size of a baseball coming off.
So wait, you've got cables coming off of that too.
The size of a baseball. So you're force leveling the whole time too.
This is insane.
You can't let the rig level.
I'm in pain listening to this.
And I think that's what blew the knee out for the second time.
Holy! But none of these things that you're talking about happened like while you were shooting. Oh, I'm down. It was like down the road.
Obviously the
football
one, I had the surgery. I had my first knee surgery in football. I had my neck surgery years ago while I was operating, but it was from
Good Lord.
football.
Yeah.
Then I had that one did my knee in for the second time though. That movie,
God.
I had to go in and get it rebuilt again.
Oh my God.
And then they were telling me I had to get my back rebuilt, but I was trying to hold off on that. But the big reason for me that I retired was I kept looking down. You guys can't see this, but I'm going to show Dave my calves.
Yeah. I'm looking at his calves.
If you look
right
at this calf, there's a calf muscle there. There's not one there.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm working on a film, and I keep looking down at my calf,
Where's
and I'm
my
like,
calf muscle?
where's my calf muscle? And I finally went into the doctor, and they went and did all these tests, and they do a nerve conduction test, which if you ever had that done, that's a real blast.
What is it, like electric
shock?
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're basically going to electric shock you through all your nerves to find out what's working.
And everything that's painful is good.
Well, what happened was I killed the nerve through all the compression in my back.
Oh my God!
That activates that muscle. So the muscle just atrophied away.
Oh, jeez.
So at that point, I went, I'm not going to. Luckily, financially, I was okay.
Yeah.
And at that point, I went, I'm not going to walk because I asked them, could I do more damage? They went, we don't know.
Yeah.
So I said, that's it. And
how old were you at this point?
I was 55.
55.
I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
The only person that knew that I was going to retire was Chris Toll, because I was working. That's John Toll's son.
Yeah.
Great first assistant, and I was doing a show, coming in on a show in San Francisco, some teenage show. It's a 16 something. It was some scary. I can't remember. Yeah. Anyways, people say to me, "Oh, Greg, you worked on the movie." I'll say, "No, I didn't." Yeah, you did. It comes with age. Anyways, but the last day, I hung the rig up, and I looked at Chris, and I said, that's it. You'll never see me on a set again.
Was it nostalgic? Was it sad? The physics.
It was kind of like there was, and then a couple years ago, I just had my back completely fused. But, I went through a period of time, I think you get lost for a little bit.
After you're done. Well, that's what I was going to ask you, is like, because it's such a part of your life, right?
And it's your social life. Yeah. It's everything. And I remember literally just walking my dog.
Yeah.
And I just I didn't get out of bed till like 9, 10 o'clock every day. It was like because you're always in sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel like wasn't feel like I gave up on life.
No,
I just was like,
I don't know what to do.
I'm not really sure what to do. And I always wanted to teach. I did when I was doing Flight of the Phoenix. They brought all these school kids out one day.
Oh, that's cool.
And the other camera was inside, and I was just sitting outside doing nothing. And they said, "Listen, we got all these school kids. Can you show them something?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I started showing them the camera. And afterwards at lunch, one of the teachers looked at me and said, "Do you teach?" I went, "No." And she said, "You should teach. You're good at it." So I always kind of had that in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. So I called Cal Lutheran up, where I went to college, and I said, "Listen, I'll come teach for free."
Yeah.
And they went, "Well, we'd love to have you, but you have to go get a teaching degree." I'm like, "I'm not going to go get it. I'm not going to spend 2 years. I'm not going to do it." So I thought, well, I wonder if anybody wants to learn.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll make myself a little website up, and that was 8 years ago.
Oh, has it been 8 years? Wow.
8 years ago.
Okay.
And I enjoy teaching as much as I enjoyed being on a set.
And how many students do you think you've taught at this point, Steadicam?
I'll say I teach steadicam, technocrane.
Sure.
The word is steadicam, but I teach all
camera
because
operator.
in getting into that part of it, I'm sure you'll be somebody who completely agrees is don't be a one-trick pony.
No.
Know how to operate everything.
Yep.
Because if you know how to operate everything, you become so valuable to that DP, and that's when they travel you and they use you because they can use you and they've got one person they can communicate with.
Yep.
But I could easily say over 1,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
For the first probably 5 years, I was doing 2 lessons a day, 5 days a week.
Wow.
Now,
and a lesson is what, a couple
2 hours?
2 hours.
2 hours. Now I do 1 lesson a day.
Yeah.
Because I get tired, But it is
That's great.
so much fun
Yeah.
to have these people come in who, it's not that, when you and I used to work with somebody who wasn't very good, a lot of times, we would work with somebody who wasn't very good, not in LA, but on location. And that person wasn't very good because they didn't get to learn from the proper people.
They didn't have access.
Didn't have it's not that they didn't have a willingness to learn.
But they just didn't have the access. And now, especially with the internet, the access is much
there.
easier. But
And I find that these people that come to me, they're there to learn. They want to learn.
Yeah.
They want to soak it up.
it's fantastic.
And I think it's great, and
for
it
you.
makes it really fun for me,
Yeah.
and I get to tell all my stories.
Well,
and
I was going
be
to
that
say,
guy,
but clearly, look, you're passing on the technique, which is its own thing, and that's important. But clearly, just sitting here and listening to you, you're passing on the ethos of what it means to take pride in your work,
Yeah.
and be a camera operator, and fix problems, and as I've talked with so many people, and on the website and whatever, it's like 10% of what we do is panning and tilting. 90% is
dialogue. Knowing how to deal with people. I'm going to give a big shout out to Lloyd Ahern. Okay, Lloyd Ahern was a cameraman.
Yeah.
And was one of those cameramen that was arguably, he goes, I'm not the greatest cameraman, but I get my day done.
Yep.
And a lot of times that'll get you a lot more work.
He was also a lot of fun to work with.
He was a
I
kick
day
to
played with him a lot, I think.
He was a kick to work with, and I remember Lloyd's best technique as a cameraman, and I really learned this from him, is make everybody on the set feel like their job's the most important job.
That's great.
And I remember one time we had in the scene, there had to be a spill on the ground. And then there was a big reset of the spill. And Lloyd wanted to get a certain amount of takes out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran over and he got the craft service guy. He said, I need you. I need you because you can save me today. If you can get this stuff, if you can be right here and clean this stuff up quick in between takes, you can save my butt.
Yeah, we could do a number of takes.
And that craft service guy feels like he's part of it now.
Yep.
And Lloyd had the ability to make everybody feel
That's great.
like they were important. You and I we've been looking at a shot, and somebody's walked up to me and said, hey, listen, is that flag in your shot? I'm never going to look at that person and go, hey, listen, I'm an operator. I'll take care of this.
I would have told you if it was.
I would have told you. And believe me, there are people that will.
Yeah.
I want everybody on that set looking out for me.
Yep.
Everybody.
And you're looking out for everybody else.
Absolutely.
It's I always tell people is, I could do the greatest shot in the world, but if it's a period piece and as the person turns around, you can see the Hanes underwear sticking up out of the back because wardrobe wasn't given the time they needed to do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, digitally they can.
Yeah,
mess
now
it,
they can digitally, but it's
but who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, but it's messed it up, and also, by the way, the other thing is, I may be doing the shot, and then I realize there's Hanes, and I've just dipped the headroom a little bit because I got taken out of it, So it has consequences all over the place. So your website is.
The website is Steadicam. Jesus, what is it?
I think it's steadicamlessons.com.
Steadicamlessons.com.
And that's also the
Instagram? The Instagram is where you really find me.
Just Steadicam lessons.
It's Steadicam
right?
Lessons.
Okay.
That's where you really find me.
And then
that's with an I, by the way.
Yes.
Here's a pet peeve for all of you.
The Y.
if you're a Steadicam operator and you spell it with a Y, you're a tool. Okay.
Yeah. I will second that actually. STEADICAM. No
but
Y.
So Steadicam Lessons. That's where you'll find me. I'm happy. I get to help you guys, you people. I get to help everybody, and I think I'm very lucky for that.
But and if you're not someone who can actually be here in California, you also have
you have online lessons as well.
Online lessons,
and if you look at the front page of the Instagram, there's a link to that as well. Yeah. And it's not just Steadicam lessons. It's wheels.
Well, you just had like a dolly grip first AC.
That went over really, really well.
Workshop, right? Where you had all three positions being taught, right?
So we had 3 dolly grips, 3 first, and 3 operators.
That's fantastic.
Adi Aragon, who's arguably one of your best dolly grips ever, taught the dolly grips. Trevor Loomis, who is one of your arguably best first assistants in all your pirate movies, all that stuff, And then I did the operating. My illustrious actress assistant, Kate, I gave her a little idea, and then she gave me a script. She wrote a script.
Great. Oh, so you actually shot something.
We directed a whole scene.
Now, did you ask her during the thing to not hit marks and do the things that?
We do the little signs where you give a little high sign and miss a mark on purpose and all that kind of stuff.
Fast.
but it's that moment of stop. Okay, how do we fix this?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it may not be you may not have to move the whole dolly. Here's something I want to say real quick. I get this all the time. And that is, you should never talk to an actor. You should never talk to an actor.
You're saying you get this, meaning you hear from students who are saying they're being told.
Exactly. Thanks for clearing that.
Yeah. No.
And I get students. I say I'll have. I have an actress when I teach, and I'll say, well, tell her what you need.
Tell her what you. Yeah. What's not working?
Oh no, I shouldn't talk to an actor.
Jesus.
I'm never going to tell an actor how to act.
Yeah.
That's what I don't do.
No.
But I need to work with that actor to help me accomplish what I need to accomplish.
Sure.
Now, what happens is then people go to the other extreme. I need you to stand up. I need you to walk 3 feet, turn face me, walk 6 feet, turn feet. Now, no.
Yeah.
Save the moment for when you need it. If I need that actor or actress to do something to help me a little bit, I can ask them. Whether I need them to banana a little wider around a corner or anything like that. But use that moment to help you. There's no reason why you cannot communicate with an actor for that reason. And you'll get into a point with an actor that you do a lot of work with, and I guarantee you, Dave, you've been there too, and it might be a major actor. They'll finish a scene, and it could be a dramatic scene, and they look at you. They look at you to know, is it any good or not? And very quietly as an operator, you're just going to nod your head give
them a little smile.
Give them a little smile.
Oh, but that said, you also have to be careful about that because you make it too much and they're
no.
And the director comes over and goes, that was all wrong. And they're like, but he said.
Right. But you'll find that moment.
Yeah.
But that's working with an actor. I'm not going to tell him how to act.
But I'll give him feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that it's one of the reasons why, by the way, and this drove me nuts. During COVID, everybody got pushed into another room on wheels, and the only person who was in there was maybe the dolly grip and the boom operator.
Right.
And sometimes I've been on shows like I'll go in and I'll day play or I'll be camera for someone or something like that. And it's still the case. And even on the shows that I'm on, like we'll do a shot, on a Ronin, on a dolly, some big. Second we're done, get it off there, get the head on there because I want to be in there because I feel for them.
Yeah.
They're out there emoting for a machine and a guy 7 feet away pushing the machine.
There's no human side
of it. There's no human, and I think they need that. But the other thing I'll say, and everything you said there was dead on, but I think for younger operators, like you said, you don't give them something that they don't need. If it's working or you can finesse it,
be
go ahead and
succinct.
be succinct. And the other thing is start slow. Like, the first thing, you don't go in blazing. And it's like the first couple of days, maybe you don't say anything unless you need to. And then you go, after the scene is over, whatever, if you have a moment, you go like, hey, I really enjoyed that, or something like that, or whatever. And then you make that connection. And then when you do need something serious, they're like, oh, this is the guy who's been here, or the woman who's been here the whole time. Of course I'm going to do
And
that
then
for
when
you.
you get it, and then when they give it to you, you're going to walk over and go, hey, thanks. That really helped me.
Really helped me out.
That really helped me out.
Yep. And the other thing you can do, by the way, beforehand is you can just go over and go, hey, I don't know if this changes anything, but when you get over to here, if you turn just a little bit more, the light hits you so beautifully. And then they're certainly like, oh, this person's looking out for me.
Here's a great Kathy Bates story.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the movie with one of the movies with Peter Levy, and Kathy Bates is supposed to be in a closet, and she's supposed to be peeking out at the closet, spying on something. And it's that classic shot where you see the light come through the eye of the slat, right? And Peter Levy walks over and says, Kathy, if you lean a little bit to your right, you'll feel that light right in your eyes. And Kathy Bates looks at Peter and goes, I'm an old whore. I don't feel anything anymore.
And I'll bet you leaned right into it.
Oh, yeah. She knew right where it was.
That's great. Now, have you ever worked with a full method actor? Like that you had trouble, like, giving those notes
Jim
to,
Carrey can be pretty method.
Okay, yeah. So what do you do with those people that's different than, the person who's like, hey, how you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, I think I just give them their space.
Yeah.
And when if they need me, when they need me, I'm happy to help, that kind of thing. It was really interesting, Jim can get pretty method at times. And I did a couple things with him, but like on The Grinch, it was interesting because people are like, oh, he's not making us laugh. It's like, he's not here to make you laugh.
No.
And not to say he was being an ass. He was really in his character.
Well, it's that comedy is serious business,
And but I do remember he's somebody who can move his whole body before you ever see it happen. As an operator,
that makes sense to me because he's kind of like rubber.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying to me, I had a close-up of him and he was going to make a move, and he said, okay, Greg, I'm going to say my line, I'm going to wait a beat, and I'm going to go. And I'm thinking, come on, I'm an experienced operator.
Yeah.
There's no problem. I'm just I'll wait for my moment, right? He was gone. I never saw him leave.
So in other words, he knows what the problem is, and he's trying to give you a heads up.
So I'm like, okay.
So is it just that he doesn't have any sort of physical tell, like a lot of
no,
like a lot of people do?
But he knows. But it's one of those things. He understands what your problem is. He's trying to help you.
So I'm an anomaly, so I'm going to let you know ahead of time.
So he said to me, he came back. He goes, Greg, trust me. So he said his line. I waited a beat, and I went, and it was perfect. And later on in the movie, one time, he didn't go when he said he was going to go.
Yeah.
And he stopped and said, no, that was on me.
Because you went.
Yeah. But one of the funniest moments of that was there's a scene in The Grinch where he's wrapping Cindy Lou up, with the Christmas stuff, paper. And I'm on the ground with a 10mm lens, which is an extremely wide fisheye lens.
Sure.
I don't have to pan or tilt or anything. And he's running all over the place, and he stops halfway through the shot. He says, Greg, there's no way you could be on me. You're not panning or tilting. And I'm like, no, Jim, I've got a 10.
It's this wide.
It's no problem. Yeah. So we would go to dailies, and every day he would go to dailies in a robe and a real lampshade on his head because he didn't want anybody to see The Grinch. But he would put a real lampshade on his head.
Because he was already in makeup for 5 hours or whatever.
And he had to walk into the theaters, right? So
I love the fact that you could come up with anything.
It was brilliant.
Because of the real
So he would watch dailies. And so the shot comes up, and you see that he's in frame the whole time, and we don't cut, and you see him stop and say, Greg, you can't be on me, all that kind of stuff.
You can see me. Yeah.
And all of a sudden you hear him from the back of the room go, shut up and work the monkey suit.
That's great.
But he was somebody who is in that way. But I don't mind a method actor if they help me.
Yep.
If they work with me.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the good ones recognize that you have a job to do, and your job is important to make them for their success.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to succeed for them to succeed.
My little my little pearl. A lot of times, if I get, especially with an actress who's very into her scene, and we got that close up, and it's a big close up, and she just cannot find her mark. Mm-hmm. And we've all been there.
Yep.
And that cameraman's coming over you going, get her on the goddamn mark.
And you're like, she's got
or
this
I'm going to
much
kill
going
you
on. Yeah,
because
yeah,
I got to light this
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah.
this is the only time she looks good. And you walk up to the actress, and you're like, listen, I really kind of need you to hit that mark if you can. And the actress, I don't just mean actress, but the actor, I don't know where I'm going to be, and I'm in this scene, and I just don't know where to be. And I would say, you got it. You go where you need to go, and I'm going to be on you. But when you're on that mark, you look beautiful because he's lit you great.
Yeah. Shink.
She's going to be on that mark.
Yep, exactly.
Little,
No, there's
Jedi mind trick.
But also, though, you are helping them at the same time.
Yeah, I want you to look good. I'm here to make you look good.
Yeah, and that's what I think that at the end of the day, all of those notes are about. Someone, I don't remember who mentioned this, was like, look, I'm not trying to do anything but make you look better and make this whole thing work better and all that. I'm not trying
as Peter Levy said to me one day, make pretty pictures.
Yep, there's no question.
I'm here every time I look through that camera. I'm trying to make a pretty picture.
Yep.
If it's an actor, an actress, I want them to look as good as I can make them look. That's my job.
Exactly.
It's what I do.
Yep.
And if I miss something, even if it's hair or makeup, I still feel it's my fault.
Yeah.
Because
you're the last person with the information, sort of.
And I think part of that was also from coming up with being a son of a makeup artist.
Yeah.
My mom, get in there, make sure,
Yep, you're attuned to that. There's no question. So since you work with a lot of students, I mean, some of whom aren't even working in the business yet, I'm sure some who are or whatever, what do you think are like some of the biggest hurdles that they have to overcome for people, starting out? What do you find are the biggest things? I'm not saying necessarily steadicam, but just as operators, or what are their biggest concerns, biggest hurdles?
I think the hardest time is we all try to figure out where to start, where to first make that initial contact with somebody, to get on that run.
How do you get your career going?
And I always, first of all, I think it's great to come into a rental house.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of rental houses. You can meet a lot of people. You can start to say, hey, listen, I'll come help you for free.
Yeah.
If you let me just tag along.
So you're saying just go down the bays and go, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'd like to introduce myself.
Can I clean a case for you?
Can I clean a case?
Can I label your case?
Is there anything you need done that nobody wants to do?
Can I go get you a coffee? Can I bring you a donut?
Yeah.
This is nothing you didn't do. This is nothing I didn't do.
Yeah.
I have, when I teach, I tell people, you can come show up and watch. Learn. But you meet people while you're there.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I find the hardest part is who to meet. And one day you're going to be scrapping around and somebody's going to like you. And the next thing they're going to do is, I'm going to do 4 days over here. Why don't you come with me? Mm-hmm. And now I can get you $100 a day. Now I can get you, and it grows that way. But it goes back to the same thing of, if you're sitting at home staring at the TV going, I don't have a job playing your video games, you ain't doing the right thing.
You're not doing the right thing, yeah.
Because there's too many people that want to do it.
Yeah.
It's a great job. You and I consider, sure, the business is different, but how many jobs can you travel all over the world, do the stuff that we've done and be artistic the whole time, and make a good living,
and laugh and have a good time,
and make friendships for life
and all that stuff. Yeah.
Listen, there's a lot of other people that want the job. There's a lot of other people that work in 12, 14, 16-hour days. That's not okay with.
No.
They're 8-hour people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I never grew up that way because of being in my mom. I knew that to me a 12-hour day was a normal day.
Sure. Yeah.
And I could, if I was going to sit in an office behind a desk, in 6 hours I'd blow my brains out.
The same way.
And not saying it's wrong. It's just not for me.
No, it's not for you. And you gotta figure out what's for you. But I like the idea of just going into a rental house and doing that. And the thing that I always think is, like, what you want to do is you want to figure out how do you make your mark and how do you leave an impression with someone that this is someone I want? And I was just in England and I was teaching and interviewing people, and we did a Q&A, and someone said, what's your piece of advice for blah blah blah? And I said, look, I know this is going to sound weird, but I would never overlook the importance of baked goods, home baked goods. And she was like, what? And I was like, make cookies and bring them in, because then 3 days later,
remember.
Who was that woman who brought in, or that guy who brought in the cookies? Those were really good. Let's call that person.
That's what you remember.
That's what you remember. It's totally random, but a friend of mine, when I first moved out to California, he came out here with me, and he was looking for a job as an engineer.
Chocolate chip for me, by the way.
with salt on top. But he was trying to get a job as an engineer, and he was like, I put my resume into all these places, and I know it goes into a pile. Like, what do I do? And he started printing it on T47 aluminum
Just
sheets.
something different.
And literally, he'd call up and be like, "This is wait, hey, it's the kid with the T47," which I guess is something too. But he stuck out, right? He didn't get a job out of that, but he got a job another way. But they all were like, "Oh, this is so. We don't have anything, but this is so cool. We're going to keep you in mind."
And that's just like when you come here. We're at Patavision, that's what I'm saying here. But when you come to these rental houses, or you're honest, you get a chance to be on a set. Make that impression. Be that person of what you need. I got you.
Yeah.
In our day when we were seconds, and I was Baird Septo's second at one time. I remember doing a movie with him, Presidio.
Oh yeah, up in San Francisco, probably, right?
Yeah. And he called my name 3 times one time.
Which is not something you wanted.
No. And he looked at me and he went, "Come here." And I walked over there and went, "You're like my dog. You stare at me all the time. I don't care if you're in a conversation, you're still looking at me. I will never call your name 3 times again. Don't go to a set, pull your phone out and start playing games."
Yeah.
Or texting. Going back to John Alonzo, he was a big teacher. And a lot of time I worked with him was before a cell phone. But you better not have a book out, a newspaper out, anything, or a cell phone when he was working on a set, because if you did, you weren't learning. So one of the biggest advice I could say as well is when you're on a set or you're at a rental house, don't bring your phone out. Watch what's going on.
Leave it in your bag.
You'd be amazed what you learn just by standing there looking around. And when your head is down, we sound like a bunch of old buggers.
But there's truth to it, because the thing is, if it's not going to happen, but let's say there are 4 interns on the show, and 3 of them had their head in a phone, and one of them doesn't.
I'm picking the one that didn't.
You're picking the one that doesn't. Because number 1, they're always going to be going, yeah, how can I help you, whatever, because they're going to see this stuff. But number 2, they're going to be like, that's the only one who is paying attention.
Exactly.
So, it makes a difference.
And getting to it, what we're talking about, what's the number 1 thing you could do? I would almost put that as one of the highest things you could do.
Leave your phone in your backpack.
Put your phone away.
Push your phone away. Yeah.
One of the nicest sets, I did Westworld, the first season of that, but one of the nicest times I ever had on a set is when they say no phones.
No phones, yeah. Because everybody's actually engaging.
Yeah, because everybody's engaging. You can tell people, listen, I'm sorry. I can't pick up my phone until lunch.
Yeah.
And it's like the leash being off you.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. That's a societal thing.
But watch what's going on. When you're not sitting there watching, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
You're not paying attention. You don't know.
Totally agree. Well, this has been fantastic. These stories are great, and I so appreciate everything you've brought to this. I'm going to leave you the question that I leave everybody with. Someone getting into the business today, when you first started out, what you wish you knew. What's your advice for how to succeed?
Going back to it, I think that almost what we just talked about, be the person who wants it the most. Be the person who pays the most attention. Be the person who stands out. And by standing out, be the person who is there the most, who's always there. There's too many people in this business who want to be in this business for you just to relax and take your time. If you want to do this job, it's a great job, but you just got to want it more than anybody else.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.